be live on Facebook. So I am going to share the first, So it is live on Facebook. Welcome to those who are joining us. I am going to share this the screen. Perfect. So welcome to those who are joining us right now. My name is Dr. Akwi Asenbang. I am an interventional gastroenterologist at Brown. I am the co-founder and board president of the Pan-African Organization for Health, Education, and Research, POHER. This is the platform for the event today. I'm very, very excited. Our co-moderators for today are POHER scholars. I was about to say Dr. Natasha B. Blue, Natasha Sichula, and Anya, Avis, Nowbuth. And our keynote speaker, I am just super excited, an international thought leader, just a friend, a colleague. You're gonna hear so much about him, Dr. Darrell M. Gray. I'm beyond excited. This is something that most of us need, and this is probably one of the best people who could present, this talk today. So format is going to be slightly different than the usual, and Anya will go over the details with you, Anya and Natasha. And please feel free, once again, this is for you. So feel free to ask questions, chat with us, and I will now turn off my mic and my camera and hand this over to our co-moderators, Natasha Sichula and Anya Avis, Nowbuth, POHER scholars. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Dr. Akwi, for the wonderful introduction. So I'm Anya, I'm based in Zambia, and I'm really happy to be a part of this platform. So I just want to go over some housekeeping rules. This webinar will be recorded and it is live on Facebook, so it can be found over there afterwards. All the participants will be in a listen-only mode, but please feel free to leave some comments in the chat function, and then any questions in the Q&A function. Chat box. Please feel free to have bathroom breaks, lunch breaks, anything in between. This is not a scheduled event. And please feel free to ask Dr. Darrell any questions. It's such an honor for him to be able to present on this platform. If there are any if you get disconnected anytime throughout the process, please log in using the same link. And I hope that you guys all enjoy it. Natasha, you can take over.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you so much, Anya, for that amazing presentation on the housekeeping rules. And thank you so much, Dr. Akwi, for making this possible for us to have this mentorship session with such an amazing doctor. So I'm going to introduce you to our keynote speaker, Dr. Darrell Gray, and he's from the USA. He's done such amazing work with gastroenterology. So let me just read his biography so that you all know about him. So Dr. Gray is an associate professor of medicine in the Division of Gastroenterology, Hepatology, and Nutrition at the Ohio State University College of Medicine. Additionally, he serves as Deputy Director of the Center for Cancer Health Equity at OSU Comprehensive Cancer Center Cancer, Medical Director of Health Communities for OSU Wexner Medical Center, and Chair of the OSUWMC Health Equity Steering Committee. His work leverages meaningful partnerships across public and private sectors to address health disparities among diverse populations across the state of Ohio and nationally. Additionally, he is a national thought leader on organizational strategies to improve diversity, equity, and inclusion. His research on these topics has been published in Nature Reviews, Health Affairs, American Journal of Gastroenterology, and JAMA Health Forum, to name a few. Dr. Gray has received numerous honors for his work, including induction into the 2017 class of the National Minority Quality Forum, which is 40 under 40 leaders in health, and National Colorectal Cancer Roundtable National Achievement Award, and multiple American College of Gastroenterology SCOPE Awards. However, Dr. Gray believes his greatest achievement are being a husband to wife Brittany and father to children Harper, who's 5, Ella, who's 3, and Noah, who's 18 months. Dr. Gray is a native of Baltimore, Maryland, and graduate of Morehouse College and Howard University College of Medicine. He completed his residency at Duke University Medical Center, gastroenterology fellowship at Washington University, and public health training at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Dr. Gray, we are so honored to have you on this amazing platform. Please take over.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Natasha. Thank you also, Anya, for helping to moderate and coordinate. And thank you to Dr. Akwi. We go way back, way back. So it's an honor to be really with her and all of you during this time. I'm really excited about our time together. And please do not hesitate to ask any question. Again, like Natasha and Anya mentioned, please type questions into the chat function. We'll be sure to get to it in the Q&A. And yes, I have some slides that I'll be sharing with you, but really what I'd like to do is just really answer a lot of the questions that you have. So instead of lecturing at you for the full time, I really want us to talk. So I'm extremely honored. You know, this is one of the first times when at the outset of the meeting, someone says, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And that just kind of tells you about the reach of this platform, the reach of POHER scholars, and I'm really excited to be here with you. I'm going to attempt to share my screen now. Okay, great. As Natasha so nicely said, I currently reside in Ohio, in Central Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio specifically. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. I did spend some time on the continent. I spent, during my medical training, I spent about 3 months in Kenya, and I spent about a month in Ghana. I would love to visit some of the other countries, and I know many of those who are watching are in Zambia. I have not been there. I would love to be there. Hopefully, once we get beyond this COVID-19 pandemic, I can join you. I would absolutely love it. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story, and my hope is that you can see your story in it too. And if elements come up about my story that you have questions about, again, I'm an open book, so please do not hesitate to ask. You know, one of the things that I recognized very early in my training, and even as a mentor to many mentees, whether they be junior mentees or whether they are peer mentees, is the importance of knowing your why. You know, particularly when I was in your shoes as a medical student, I had a vision for what I wanted to do in the field of medicine, and that has changed over time. But what really has not changed is the why for why I do it. Now, one of the things that I have to disclose to you that really informs a lot of what I do and what I feel my calling and mission are several things. Number one, I'm a man of faith. And those beliefs definitely inform all the work that I do, the path that I take, and how I leverage it in my daily life, in my work. I'm a father and husband. I've been married for about 10 years now, 10 years as of the end of September. I have 3 children, just like Natasha mentioned. Harper's 5. Ella actually just turned 4, so she's no longer 3. She just turned 4 about a week ago. And Noah is 19 months. I'm a physician. I see patients, a wide variety of patients, particularly in my clinic in gastroenterology. And as a gastroenterologist, I also perform procedures as well. And as a physician leader, I also lead different teams across our organization and enterprise and different efforts, particularly as it pertains to health equity. And I'm a community advocate. I try to represent the community at the tables that I have the privilege of being at, whether it's a boardroom, whether there are initiatives that would directly impact the community. If they cannot be there, and trust that I champion for community members to be there because I strongly believe in community engagement. If not, I try to speak out on their behalf. Certainly, be that voice and be that listening ear as well. But one thing I want you to remember, and it may be worth even writing this down, it's something that I return to very regularly. On the left, you'll see a picture. On the far left of that picture is one of my close friends, Dr. Joshua Joseph. He's a nationally renowned endocrinologist. His work focuses on the intersection of diabetes and cardiovascular disease. We also trained together at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. And so we've known each other for over 20 years, and he's currently here at The Ohio State University as well, an outstanding physician scientist. In the middle is Sean King. He's also a kind of internationally renowned for his work on social activism, and he's a Morehouse brother. I attended a seminar. This is a little over a year ago, and when he made a statement during that seminar that really resonated with me, and it really encapsulated, really in just a sentence, what I try to teach mentees, and have used a lot more words than just one sentence to express. But this just so well encapsulated it. Do the thing that makes you come alive to impact the issue that breaks your heart. Let me say that again. And again, I encourage you, this is something to write down, to keep in a journal, something that you can reflect on, because we all have times when we question why we're doing what we're doing, why we're going in this path, because it gets difficult at times. And sometimes we have to return, not only for me, I return to my faith, but even just quotes like this: do the thing that makes you come alive to impact the issue that breaks your heart. So the issues that break my heart are things like poverty. Certainly, I'm a gastroenterologist, and I think about diseases such as colorectal cancer and preventing that, and coming up with strategies to do so, particularly for underserved and impoverished populations. Yes. What breaks my heart even more are things like poverty and racism and discrimination, and why some populations have poor housing and others do not, why there's income inequality. Those issues break my heart. So a lot of my work focuses around trying to navigate those issues and really working with our community to do so. And really just over the past several months, in 2020, obviously the pandemic has really impacted the way a lot of us work. Certainly it's got, just like this platform, it's gotten a lot of us on a lot more Zoom meetings, right? But it's impacted how we work. But fortunately, I've been able to leverage this time to do quite a bit of writing. These are just a few of some of the papers that we've written. I and my teammates and mentees have put together just over the past couple of months that kind of cover some of these topics, from diversity and inclusion, understanding how diversity and building a diverse workforce directly impacts patient outcomes, and how we address the factors that impact their health outcomes. But also systemic inequity. You know, as we think about downstream health outcomes like cancer or heart disease or diabetes, and the list goes on, asthma, we have to think further upstream into those, what we call social determinants of health, which are the factors in which people live, grow, work, play, and age, and the larger social structures that influence those things. We have to consider that also. You know, even beyond our roles as physicians and wearing white coats and seeing patients and treating disease, we have to think about those factors that lead to them getting the disease in the first place and figure out ways to navigate that. So some of these writings really intersect with that, but none of this would have been possible. You know, my journey was largely influenced by the mentors and the sponsors that I had. And so that's what I'm really excited to share with you today, and hope we can engage in some discussion about. Now, I just want to outline my journey, and I understand that the process of the journey and the length of the journey is different. Like I said, I spent some time during my medical training in Ghana. This was during medical school. I had a friend who was living in Ghana, and so I spent a month out there with him. But also during my residency training, as a part of that, my senior year, my third year residency training, I spent 3 months at a small hospital in Kenya called Tenwick Hospital in Bomet, Kenya. And I was there for 3 months. And during that time, I got to know quite a few people there. And I understood that the journey to a career in medicine is a little bit different. So I'm going to describe my journey in just a minute. So this kind of outlines my journey. I started, so I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, on the East Coast of the United States. But after high school, I left Baltimore and I went to Washington, D.C. And I went to a historically Black university called Howard University College of Medicine, where I completed my medical school. So just to, for those of you who are unaware of the time and the path to a career in medicine, so after high school, I went to Morehouse College. It's 4 years. So we spend 4 years in undergraduate education. And during your undergraduate, you can major in or you can study whatever you want to study. You don't have to study biology, meaning that doesn't have to be your primary major. Certainly you have to do prerequisite courses in biology and chemistry and physics, but that does not have to be your primary concentration in college. You can be a dancer, you can study art, you can study music as your primary major and still get into medical school. As long as you cover those prerequisite courses and take what's called the MCAT test, or medical college admission test, which is a test that you must score well on in order to get accepted into medical school. So after college and completing a biology major and taking the medical college admission test, I went to Howard University College of Medicine, and that was 4 years. I was fortunate to get a scholarship to cover the majority of the costs for medical school. And during that time, when I was in medical school, you know, my thought was that I was going to be a cardiologist. That's what I aspired to be at the time. I thought I was going to be the future of cardiology. And one of the things that resonated with me was the fact that heart disease was the #1 killer in the United States of people, and particularly for people who look like me, people who are Black. And I thought that I could make a difference in that space. And so I completed Howard University College of Medicine. And then after medical school, or amidst going through medical school, you go through this application process, and it's called ERAS, E-R-A-S. And it's an application process where you apply to various residencies, and through some complicated algorithm, you rank whichever place you want to go for, or places you want to go for residency. And they also rank you after a series of interviews and looking at your application. And then you kind of get paired up. So I ranked Duke University Medical Center as my #1 choice for residency. Unfortunately, was blessed to get that opportunity. So I left Washington, D.C., went further down south on the East Coast to Durham, North Carolina, and started my residency there, aspiring again to be a cardiologist, a heart doctor. Well, I very quickly learned, after starting in an intensive care unit that was geared towards cardiac care, and then doing an inpatient cardiology rotation very early in my training, that I liked cardiology, but I didn't love it. I didn't see myself doing that for the remainder of my career. And so again, this was an opportunity to, you know, do the thing that makes you come alive, to impact the issue that breaks your heart. And it was not, cardiology was not necessarily making me come alive. And I was fortunate that I had mentors while I was at Duke who were also, I identified people who were in gastroenterology, and I wasn't necessarily looking for gastroenterology. I knew that cardiology wasn't it, but I was fortunate that some of the attending doctors that I rounded with in the hospital were gastroenterologists, and they were willing to take me under their wing, and I got to shadow them in their clinic and see them do procedures. And I really kind of fell in love with the specialty. But also I saw an opportunity for myself where within that field, I could carve out a niche where I, again, could cater towards the underserved and vulnerable populations, the areas in which I am most passionate. And so I saw an opportunity for addressing health disparities in that, particularly around colorectal cancer and even the upstream social determinants of health. So I pursued that. Now, so again, if we return to the timeline, so 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, 3 years of internal medicine residency. And again, during residency, I chose that I wanted to go into gastroenterology. So again, another application process through ERAS, ERAS, and I applied to gastroenterology fellowship, and I was honored and blessed to get accepted to Washington University, and that's where I met Dr. Akwi. And she preceded me, and also was kind of one of those, I guess you could say, peer mentors, as well, kind of modeling some of my journey after what she had already accomplished there. And while I was at Washington University in St. Louis doing my gastroenterology fellowship, which is 3 years, I recognized that I lacked some skills that I felt that I needed. Again, I was doing some work there where we were trying to navigate people from the community, particularly Black churches, into getting primary health care and then ultimately getting specialty care like screening tests for colorectal cancer. But I recognized that I didn't have necessarily the tools to translate that to a larger kind of program, like a national or state level program. And I also didn't feel like I could speak the language of policymakers. And so, I was blessed that around, I believe it was my second year of fellowship, gastroenterology fellowship, that a gentleman came in from Harvard and he talked about this program that he had participated in called the Commonwealth Fund Fellowship in Minority Health Policy. And I said, this must be God, because this is what I was kind of thinking of and looking for. And so I applied for that. And instead of going directly into a job, which I could have gone into private practice or work in academia at a university, I went into this program at Harvard. It was a 1-year program tailored for physicians that gives you exposure into policymakers. And I got my master's in public health there and met a tremendous cadre of leaders across the world, literally. And ultimately, and that was at Harvard, and ultimately I ended up at Ohio State in the Midwest of the United States, in Ohio. And it's been a blessing for me ever since. And, I have had a very accelerated, I would say, kind of career since being at Ohio State for now, probably close to 6.5 years, and have really been honored to be appointed and elected to different leadership positions across, not only within our enterprise, across the enterprise, our health system, but also national leadership positions with, for example, the American College of Gastroenterology, the National Colorectal Cancer Roundtable, other organizations. It's honestly been a true blessing. And throughout that, what I really want to stress is this would not have been possible without having great mentors and sponsors by my side, advocating for me, opening doors for me, showing me opportunities that I could take advantage of, advocating for me, sending in letters of recommendation, making phone calls on my behalf, telling me things to avoid, telling me how to handle certain difficult situations. And so that's what I really want to stress to you today, because I understand that you may be on different parts of your journey. Your journey may not look like mine. You may pursue other areas of medicine or public health or health careers. But one thing that may be very similar is how you can leverage the power of mentorship. And so as we talk about mentors, I want to distinguish mentors from sponsors. Okay. And some people view sponsors as a type of mentor, and that's true. You can even view it as different types of mentors, coaches and sponsors. But I want to distinguish those two. So mentors, they really help to provide you feedback. They provide you with advice and coaching. So you identify people who really you feel might be in a position that you aspire to be in. You look at them and you say, I want to do that. I want to be like that person. And they are the person that can provide you feedback, on where you are, how you may traverse your journey, and talk about things that you might need to do better throughout your journey. So these are kind of key people that you need to identify. Sponsors, on the other hand, they may not be your primary mentors, right? But sponsors are people who are in positions of authority, maybe leaders in the field, maybe leader of your department that you're working in, people who are respected in their field and have influence who can open doors for you. So for example, sponsors might be the people to say, hey, Natasha, there is this committee for this national organization that I think you would be great for. Why don't you apply to be a part of this committee? And I'll put in a good word for you. Or a sponsor might say, look, something just came across my desk about this summer program, and I think you will be a great candidate for you. A great candidate for this summer program. This is a great opportunity, and I'm willing to call one of my friends who kind of helps to put this program together. So that's a sponsor. A sponsor really is thinking about your advancement, and they help to open some doors that may not otherwise be open to you. But they're not necessarily your primary mentors or the people that you talk to on a very regular basis in regards to feedback and coaching and advice. But what is uniform and what is characteristic of both is that both must be based on a foundation of mutual respect and trust and understanding. You know, both really should be just as interested and committed to your acumen or your competence, meaning your excellence in education, right? Your performance, as they should be committed to your character. Okay, how you handle situations, how you treat others, how the relationship between you and your mentor and sponsor. Okay, that's extremely important. And I want to walk you along as you are thinking about, whether you're a medical student or not. Some questions you should be thinking about as you are trying to identify mentors and sponsors. Perhaps you already have mentors, but you're trying to figure out, is this the right mentorship relationship for me? Is this productive for me? I want to walk you through some questions that will hopefully be thought-provoking for you and reflective as you think about how you can improve upon your mentor-mentee relationships. Who's your primary career mentor? And I say that, your primary career mentor is someone who really thinks about the big picture, okay? This is not someone necessarily who is focused on the short game or the task of traversing first year medical school to second year to third year and kind of the nuances and challenges therein. But they're thinking about the big picture. So, they're thinking about, okay, well, what do we need to accomplish during this med school journey so that it makes it smooth and easier for you for your next step? And certainly this is someone you're going to want to really talk about your vision for your career with, someone who may even help as you're kind of traversing, medical school and going on to your job or residency training, how best to do that, what to think about, where you might apply, things like that. So that you want to make sure that you have a primary career mentor. And we're going to get into some more details that are addressing these 5 questions. Who is your technical mentor? Okay. So technical mentor, they have a expertise in a specific area that will be valuable to you. So let's say, for example, you are interested in a career in primary care, right? Maybe not specialty care like a gastroenterologist like me, but you want primary care. And so perhaps you identify a mentor in that specific area who has a very comprehensive view of primary care and how to be an excellent physician in that way. That's a technical mentor. Or maybe there's a specific skill. Let's say you are just starting out in your research career and you want to have a mentor who is very adept at epidemiology or statistics. That's a very specific area where you can have a technical mentor, okay? So I just distinguishing into primary career and technical mentor. Have you identified sponsors? Okay, so let's go back. If you think about what I said in the prior slide, sponsor is someone who is a person of influence and authority, who's respected and who can open up doors that others may not be able to, right? So this is someone who's going to be bringing opportunities to you, who's going to be thinking of you when those opportunities come across their desk, his or her desk. in regards to summer programs, scholarships, committee participation, recognition and awards. Have you identified a sponsor? Okay. Who's the master connector in your network? That's a term I haven't brought up yet. So a connector may be the person who bridges your mentor and your sponsor. Perhaps it's someone who knows both of them who can bring them together. Perhaps that connector is someone who can help you as you think about building a team of mentorship, a mentorship committee, if you will. And I think that's extremely valuable to have kind of a mentorship committee. And so maybe that connector may be someone who you're more familiar with, maybe even more than your sponsor or your primary mentor, someone who knows you well, but also knows the mentor that you're aspiring to work with and the sponsor you're hoping to connect with. So thinking about master connectors in your network is extremely important. And do you have, this goes back to what I mentioned in regards to the team, mentorship team or committee. Do you have a diverse mentorship team with which you meet regularly? Now, you know, one of the things we can take advantage of in this time, particularly COVID-19, and I'm not sure, you know, how restrictive things are where you're working currently, but I'll tell you here, whereas almost all of our meetings were in person, almost everything is now on Zoom like we are right now. And so it's a little bit easier, I would say, to meet with people via Zoom because of that. So thinking about how you can meet with these stakeholders, when I say stakeholders, I'm talking about the primary career mentor, the technical mentor, the sponsor, in a regular fashion. And I understand the people that you identify in these positions are maybe very busy, okay? And so it probably will be very difficult in that case for them to all coordinate to be on the same meeting at the same time. And that's okay. They can still be part of your team or your committee and not meet at the same time. That's not the point. The point is that you are meeting with them regularly because you want to update them, to seek their feedback, and you want to get something from them too, right? You want them to kind of deposit some things in you that help to either motivate, to revise, to move you forward, to advance, okay? Now, there's some key tips that you need to keep in mind. And some of these really, this is a great article. This is an article that I actually send to mentees of mine. I want to give you the exact title of the article. I didn't put it at the bottom. It is a Harvard Business Review article. I think it's something like things mentors wish their mentees knew, but if you give me a second, I'm gonna look. I think I have it, might have it with me. Yes, it's what mentors wish their mentees knew. What mentors wish their mentees knew. It's a Harvard Business Review article that I highly recommend, and I'm pulling some things from that today because I think it's so valuable for mentees to understand these things. Number one is clarify what you need, right? So, you know, part of this, as a part of this forum, I recognize that many of you want mentorship and need mentorship. Certainly, I told you it was a critical part of my career development is having mentorship. But what's important is, you know, knowing what you are looking for out of your mentor is extremely important to know before you approach somebody and say, I want you to be my mentor. Because that person's going to say, well, what do you want me to mentor you for? You know, what specific things are you hoping to accomplish? So have a goal in mind. Is that mentor someone that you want to help you mentor you throughout your medical school journey? Is this the big picture mentor, the kind of primary mentor? Is this more the technical mentor? So identifying what you want that person to do for you is extremely important. Choose wisely. And we're going to get into this. You know, we used to have a saying when I was young. I haven't heard it in a very long time. But people used to say everything that glitters is not gold. And what that means is everything that looks good and is shiny and appears to be doing well may not be. So for example, you may see people who are on the TV, and people who are very much celebrated, and people who may appear to be at the top of their field, but they may not be the person for you. They may not be the person you want to model. And I've had examples, I've definitely seen that in my career, right? People who may be at the peak of their field, but you come to find out, I don't want to be like that person. Maybe that person has been so committed to their field, right? And so committed to being at the top of their field that they don't have a great relationship with their family. Maybe that's not what you do. That's not what I would want to be, right? Because family is very, I told you at the beginning during my disclosures, family is very important to me. My faith is very important to me. So maybe that person who is very celebrated, perhaps they don't have that kind of relationship with their faith and relationship with their family. So choose wisely. Or perhaps, maybe they do have those things, but they are so busy. And maybe they travel, they do a lot of international or national travel, and they're just difficult to get in touch with. They're kind of pinned down for a meeting to meet with regularly. And it's not because they don't like you. It's not because they don't want to see you do well, but it's just that they are that occupied and busy that they might not be the best choice for you for mentorship. Okay. Under promise and over deliver. This is really important. So as you think about when you set goals with your mentor, and perhaps you have a research mentor, and I'll use that as an example. Perhaps you are doing some research or just starting a project or at the point of identifying an opportunity for a research project, and you are just, planning out the early stages or trying to think of your hypothesis, what your goals may be, and you're building the timelines around them. People want, mentors want someone who not only meets their expectations, right? But it's always a bonus if you exceed expectations. So that's why I say under promise and over deliver, because you have an opportunity. Let's say there's a timeline and your mentor says, great, let's work on this. Give me a hypothesis in another 2 weeks, right? But you say, okay, 2 weeks, but you then over deliver. You have it ready in 1 week. Or let's say you've already done the research project, you're starting to write it up, or you're going to submit to a regional or national meeting to present your research, and an abstract is due. And your mentor says, okay, great, let's have this ready in another 3 weeks, but then instead you over deliver and have it ready in 2 weeks. That's the kind of mentality you want to have. You want to exceed the expectations of your mentor. It's much better to do that than the other way around, to get to that 3-week mark that you set as a deadline and say, you know what, I had this come up and, something happened to my computer and I lost the software, or, something happened unexpected, and then you're coming up with these excuses for why you didn't meet the deadline, right? So you always want to aim to do it before something is due, right? To over deliver. And mind your mentor's time, okay? Your mentors are likely your mentors because you admire and you look up to what they have accomplished, right? And they have accomplished that likely because they are very disciplined with their time. And they are likely very busy people. And busy, can take various forms. So certainly they are probably very disciplined with their, just using academia and research as an example, they're very busy with, maybe it's their clinical time, they're very busy with their academic and research time or administrative responsibilities, but certainly they may also be busy at home. And so consider the fact that when they insert a meeting time with you, they are sharing time that could have been invested in their family. They're sharing time that could have been invested in their research project or their administrative roles. It is very valuable. Value people's time. And so certainly, even just the small things, just the thank yous about sharing the time and then the follow-up. So one of the things I didn't even write on in one of my latter slides about another kind of key tip is that when you meet with your mentor, here's a key tip. Before you meet with them, make an agenda. Send them the agenda ahead of time. So send them items that you hope to discuss during your meeting. That speaks to your professionalism as a mentee, and that you respect their time. You respected it enough to plan ahead of time, to come up with an agenda, and then stick to that agenda. But not only that, take it a step further. After you meet with your mentor, send them a note, send an email, not only to thank them for their time, but to then give them the minutes, if you will, from the meeting. And it doesn't have to be detailed word for word minutes, but say, summarize the discussion based around the items that you had on that agenda as just a follow-up. Because what may happen is you then, several weeks down the line, a month down the line, or however you set up your cadence to meeting with your mentor, they may go back in their email and say, okay, what did we talk about last time? And they're searching for that email that you sent them, and then they have a reference for what you talked about last time. That's so key. That's such a key tip. Okay. Beware of pitfalls. And I'm going to put a pin in that. I'm going to pause there because I'm going to come back to that and spend a slide on being aware of pitfalls. All right. And then be energized and engaged. Come to the mentor relationship with enthusiasm. Don't come all sad and, oh, this happened to me, and oh, I didn't do well on this test, so I'm in a bad mood and all that. No. We want energized mentees. Think about people you just like being around. Think about your friendship cohort and those friends you love to see and be around. And think about those that you don't want to be around. You don't want to be that person that the mentor does not want to be around, okay? All right, so the pitfalls. This is being aware of what I call mentorship malpractice, okay? So mentors use mentees' ideas. These are, some of these can be what we call mentor hijackers, right? They take your ideas, your projects, and your grant ideas maybe for self-gain. And maybe it's because they haven't achieved what they wanted to. And so you're coming in with these brilliant ideas, and then you lead the research and lead it to the kind of manuscript level. You've written the first draft. It's looking good, but needs revision. But then you're not included as an author, or maybe you're not the first author, even though you did all the work, right? So beware of these kind of mentors. Beware of mentors who assign you to things that have nothing to do with your mission, nothing to do with the goals you set out. They kind of assign you chores. Hey, can you go do this for me? Can you go meet with these people in my lab and explain this process to them? Maybe it's something that they are supposed to do that they then assign to you. And distinguish that from other things that may help you to grow a skill. So I'm not saying there may be things that they assign you to that help you to grow a skill, but you should be able to discern which things are kind of chores versus those things that build your skill. Beware of mentors that discourage collaboration. So if you're an excellent mentee and you're doing well, perhaps as it pertains to research, maybe you're being productive. And so it's catching the eye of other doctors, other researchers, other leaders in the field. Or maybe you on your journey have decided that maybe this area of research with this one mentor is not what I see as my long-term vision. And so I want to pursue a project or shadowing or working with another person. And a bad mentor would be someone who kind of discourages you. No, you just want to stay with me. No, that's kind of selfish. So try to stay away from that. Mentors who lack the bandwidth and or interest. These are, again, this goes to mentors who either perhaps they just are just so busy. Maybe they have too many grants on their plate, too many research projects on their plate. Maybe they are very busy clinically, and they just don't have the time. And sometimes that can be okay because you don't want someone to agree to be your mentor, but then never is available to meet with you. Or maybe it's just someone who just doesn't have the interest, and you can glean that maybe perhaps from your first time meeting with them. Or mentors who fail to advocate for you. Perhaps you are in a mentor-mentee relationship and you've had some challenges. And maybe it's probably not with the mentor, but other external circumstances, and you need your mentor to help advocate for you. Maybe you've had some academic challenges, but you know that your mentor can speak to the fact that you've had academic challenges, but can speak to your character, can speak to your discipline, can speak to those great things that you've accomplished to help you maybe navigate a very difficult situation with your institution, or even where you somewhere you aspire to be, maybe as a resident or on a job. So keep all of these attributes of bad mentors in mind as you're searching for a mentor. And with that, I want to, I probably talked overtime, but it's because I'm so passionate about this. I want to make sure I open it up for enough time for questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen now so I can see the faces of the panelists and moderators, and really thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gray. I think that was a really important and very fruitful discussion or presentation that you did. I especially feel very enamored for my mentor. I think everything that you've mentioned just makes me feel so grateful for the mentor that I do have. And I think that it really is such an important step. I'm really so happy to hear about your process, and it's really interesting to compare the differences between medical school in Zambia and then the process in the States. So thank you so much for sharing all that information. I just wanted to quickly I forgot to add something when I was introducing everyone. So we do have some medical students from all around the continent on board with us. They're all behind the scenes. Natasha and I will call up each student, and then they've got some questions for you. So once we name, or once we introduce everyone, then they can just unmute and put on their cameras, and they can ask you your questions, and we'll be going it around. So we'll give an opportunity to each student to ask one question, and then we'll rotate and come back to you. And then Natasha and I will go about the Q&As, the questions that are put in the Q&As and the chat function. So just attendees, if you just have any questions, please just pop it in the Q&A box. And with that, Natasha, if you'd like to take over.
Thank you so much, Anya, for that clarification. And Dr. Gray, it was really amazing learning from you about the 5 questions you need to ask yourself when finding a mentor and a sponsor. And I especially loved the quote that you used. You said, do the thing that makes you come alive to impact the issues that breaks your heart. I know you heard it from Sean, I think.
Yes.
I feel like I'm going to put that on my mirror or somewhere in my diary, and just always remember it to follow my passion and the thing that I really want to become. So thank you so much. This session has been amazing. So now I'm going to call upon our other doctors from Nigeria, Kenya, Zambia, and the Congo to ask their questions. I'm sure all of them have prepared amazing questions for you. So I'm going to go with Opelua from Nigeria. She can come up.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, Dr. Gray. I'm Opelua Makinde from Nigeria, Obafemi Awolowo University. So my first question is, how do I get the most from a very busy mentor who is actually interested in mentoring me, but he's just very busy? How do I get the most? You talked about meeting with mentors or a network of mentors often, or if this person is busy, how do I get the most out of that relationship?
Thank you for that very great question. So I would first is to understand how that mentor will best be able to communicate with you. So some mentors will say, let's primarily connect via email, because someone who's very busy, they may check emails very late at night, kind of catching up on things and being able to reply to you about specific questions you have. Others may prefer to meet face-to-face, whether it's in Zoom or having a personal meeting. So find out from that mentor, what is the best way to communicate with you, and is there a time that is better? So for example, if you know that mentor checks their emails very early in the morning or late at night, perhaps you send a communication then. The other thing is to just keep sending updates. So perhaps, maybe there's been some accomplishment, maybe you've done very well on a test, or maybe you've written about something, or maybe you've taken advantage of an opportunity that they put in front of you. Send them an update about that. Just to say, I just wanted to, and you may not even expect a response. Hey, I just wanted to let you know that opportunity you provided me or that you talked to me about. I just wanted to tell you that it was very fruitful for me. So thank you. So frequent updates, communicating with them in the fashion that they find is helpful, and then making sure that they understand, what their goal as a mentor is for you. So you two work together and figure out what are the objectives of this relationship that we have, and are we on target to meet those objectives. Keeping that kind of communication open about those things is extremely important with a very busy mentor.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Opelua, for that question. I'd like to call upon Tepwanji. Tepwanji, if you have any questions for us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anya. Yes, I do. Thank you, Dr. Gray, for your presentation. It was quite insightful. I have so many questions, but I'm going to stick to those that I feel are relevant at this time. You mentioned the quote that Natasha echoed in her statement, saying, what was it? It was something
that
about
makes you come alive, to impact the issue that breaks your heart.
That breaks your heart, yeah. So to impact the issue that breaks your heart. So my question about that statement is, what about things that make you happy? I know there's a lot of focus on things that break your heart, things that you would like to see change.
Yeah.
What if you as an individual would like a career that genuinely makes you happy? And
Yes.
how does that relate? And then with regards to this, a follow-up question would be, is there ever a moment in your career when you feel like you've achieved your aim? Do you have to keep pushing and fighting and, changing and developing in your field? Or is there a standstill where you're like, okay, I've run my race. I think I've done what I can do and I'm done. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those questions. Such thoughtful questions. In regards to the first questions, yes, I do believe that those things can be very much aligned. Both, you pursuing the issues that break your heart, and also those that make you happy at the same time. So I use the example of my personal example of things that break my heart, like poverty and income inequality, and addressing cancer disparities and things like that. But it also makes me very happy when I see that as I am out in the community educating people on those things and trying to help people navigate barriers to healthcare, that makes me very happy. So yes, seeing the outcomes of those things break my heart. But seeing that as I'm helping to navigate people beyond those barriers, it makes me very happy. And I feel like it makes me happy because I know that that is aligned with what God has called me to do. I feel like I am, I'm walking in purpose when I do those things, and that makes me very happy. I think, to your second question, and again, I am biased because I'm a man of faith, and so I feel like as long as God is pushing me to do these things, I'm going to keep going at it with all my heart and keep running this race at the speed at which He wants me to do it. Like right now, I feel like I am going, like 1,000 miles an hour. Now I personally know that that is not sustainable in the long run, but I feel like God is energizing me right now to do this at this pace. So I, albeit I feel like I've accomplished much, and I've accomplished much because of the team with which I work, and the support that I have. But I know that there's much more to do. And as long as God has given me the energy to do it and telling me to go out there and get it done, I'm just going to keep running this race until He says, slow it down. So.
Thank you.
Oh, those are amazing questions that you gave to Panji, and thank you for the response. Yeah, because like I was also trying to understand the quote. It says, "Do the things that make you alive." So I feel like when you're doing the things that make you come alive, you're also doing the things that make you happy. So that's how like it goes hand in hand, just exactly how Dr. Gray explained it. So I'm going to call upon the next panelist to ask that question. So I'm going to ask Muiza, you're the one that I see on my screen.
Natasha, you may want to say the name one more time.
Oh, Muiza, your mic isn't on.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Dr. Gray, for the
Thank you.
lovely presentation. In the beginning, when you're given the difference between a mentor and a sponsor, you said a mentor is supposed to be there to provide advice, feedback, and coaching, right?
Yes.
So my question is, where and how do you draw the line between who your mentor wants you to be and who you want to be? Because I've noticed you can begin well, you have given your objectives, what you want to learn from them, and the things you'd like to achieve. But in the long run, some of them tend to draw you to being more like them than being more of yourself. So, how and where do you draw the line? Say, this is who I want to be,
Yeah.
and not who this person you're creating me to be. Of course, they're supposed to help you take the direction that you want to take, but when you reach such a crossroad, what do you do?
Oh my goodness. Can I just say how I love this panel and I love these questions? You all are giving me so much energy this morning. I love all of these questions. Thank you so much. And I mean, that question, I have a perfect example of that. So I recall when I was, and I'm gonna answer your question through a personal example. So when I was in gastroenterology fellowship, again, that's where I met Dr. Akwi, and I had some excellent mentorship. And as I was about to, again, I had mentioned, I had made a decision that I wasn't going to go straight out into practice, and was going to pursue, I decided I was going to pursue this fellowship and then ultimately go to Ohio State on faculty after finishing that. Well, you know, I had mentors who didn't necessarily think that that pathway was the greatest idea, right? And I suspect it was because they hadn't seen that path done. It wasn't what they had pursued for themselves, you know, and they had seen their picture of success looked a little bit different than perhaps going to Ohio State and Columbus. Maybe it was going to, you know, Johns Hopkins or Harvard to work and build an academic career. And certainly there are many examples, and I have friends who have pursued that path and gone there and done excellent things, right? But there is the temptation of mentors to sometimes, because you were so good, they want you to follow their path, right? So, and maybe perhaps that's a selfish way, right? Because they want to say, you know, I raised this person up to be very much like me. Or maybe it's not selfish and they just can't help it. And they just think so highly of you that they're like, man, this person just is great. And I want to help, you know, within my research lab or within my academic position, I just want to help mold this person. But what I recognized is, as much as your mentor may respect you and think highly of you and you may have a good relationship with, no one is going to be more invested in your interests than you. And so you have to be willing to speak up. And that's a decision I had to make. I had to speak up and say, you know, I thank you. You know, I've respected your mentorship. I respect your influence. I respect your advice. But in this instance, I'm going to have to go a different path, and that's okay. And also know that your mentors can be mentors for a season. Your mentors, these don't have to be lifelong mentors. You know, there can be an end point for a mentorship relationship. You know, you don't have to have them forever. And so this may be a mentor that gets you to a certain point and then you move on, you know, to something else. But also this stresses the importance of having a mentorship team or mentorship committee so that you're not dependent on just one person, that you have some other perspectives as well. So I so appreciate that question. It happens to a lot of people. It happened to me, where you may not agree with the direction a mentor is trying to take you. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Dr. Gray.
Yeah.
Thanks, Musa. That's actually such an important question. I think it's so easy for when you're young and you have all these different ideas, and then someone is like, go this way, go that way. So it's very easy to also get distracted in what your main goal actually is. I've been very fortunate with my mentor, I think, because she keeps on always reinforcing, what is your goal? What do you want to do? So That's really a really important aspect. Gloria, if you'd like to ask your question, please.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Yes, I'm Gloria Bwari from Kenya.
Hi.
Hi. So I'd like to thank you, Dr. Gray, for the beautiful session we've just had.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot, especially on the bit of under-promising and over-delivering. I think I've had an issue with that a bit. So it was really nice that you touched on it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. Also, the fact that you've been to Kenya, it was really nice to hear that. We hope you'll plan on traveling back soon.
I would love to, especially with my family. I would love to. It's such a beautiful area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So my question would be, in Kenya, medical school is an undergraduate degree of 6 years. So during those 6 years, basically you do general medicine and surgery. So at what point exactly in your journey do you say, okay, now I need a mentor? Because probably you're not sure what field you want to go into. Nothing in particular strikes out for you as something you really like. So in that case, it makes it a bit challenging to say like, this is the field I want to go into, so I can look for someone to mentor me from this area. So what do you do exactly about that?
Thank you so much for that question. Good question. I think that, you know, as you're, so even at the fact that you are now in pursuing medicine, you're in that space where you're getting that kind of undergraduate experience, you know that your career field is going to be focused on some aspect of medicine. I think you need a mentor even at that point. And perhaps, you know, maybe your goal for the mentor at that time is, and perhaps it could be even one of your professors, for example, you know, how do you, or the mentor, you know, a lot of times we think about mentor as these very senior people, right? But your mentor at that level may be another student. Maybe it's a student who's at near the end of that journey, and that's what we call a peer mentor. Someone who can help navigate you, make sure that you're successful through that kind of medical school career. So, you know, and then that peer mentor can also say, well, this is what you can expect in your third year. This is what you can expect in your fourth year. These are some challenges you want to think about as you're in your fourth year. Or, you know, this is how I help think through what my specialty would be. Even the peer mentors can be very, very valuable. I've had great friends, peer mentors, people who may have been 1 or 2 or 3 years ahead of me, who helped me to foresee the roadblocks and the challenges that I would come in contact with. And so I think even wherever you are in the medical school journey, I think it's very important to have a mentor. It could be your peer or it could be someone senior, even before you know what specialty you want to go into. And that is okay. You know, as things start to materialize, so as you're going through medical school and you're like, okay, I've identified finally what I want to do, what I feel like I'm called to do, and then you can pursue a mentor in that specialty. Utilize your peers as mentors. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Gray.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria, for that amazing question. And when do you feel it's right for you to find your mentor? And thank you so much, Dr. Gray, for your response. I feel like at every point in our life, we need to find a mentor. So I really love how you responded to her question.
Thank you.
Now we have the team, the group from Congo, from the University of Lubumbashi in Congo, DRC. So we're going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves as well as ask the questions that they have for you.
Oh, thank you.
Merci beaucoup pour la parole.
Well, thank you so much for the floor.
C'est pas si vous écoutez.
I don't know if you can hear us. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I can hear you very well. Thank you.
Merci Moi, c'est Gilles Saïd Matoumbe.
Well, my name is Gilles Saïd Matoumbe.
Je suis le président de la cellule scientifique des étudiants en médecine.
I'm the president, the chief of the cell, scientific cell
À l'université de Lubumbashi en RDC.
at the University of Lubumbashi, the DRC.
Nous avions très bien suivi Dr. Gray.
We were watching very well, Dr. Gray.
Et comme vous le voyez, on est en groupe, comme ça on va poser quelques questions.
As you can see, we're a group, so we're going to be asking some questions.
Yes.
Et pour commencer, on peut tout d'abord donner la parole à celui qui est derrière, qui pose sa question.
Well, before we get started, we're going to pass down the floor to the one who's right behind us. He's going to ask some questions.
Good, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gray. It has been a very wonderful time for us, people of French countries, to your conference. So it has been very interesting. So, but I've got a question. So it's about when you talk about how to choose wisely. So my question is how to choose a mentor wisely. So what are the criteria for us to choose a mentor wisely? So that is my question. I think that's.
Thank you so much for that first question. And gentlemen, it is so nice to see you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me and with all of us on this panel. It's truly an honor for me. I am honored that I get to speak with you as well as the other women on the call. So thank you very much. You know, as I think about choosing wisely, I think about some of the things that help you to choose wisely and what you should be looking for to ensure that you are making a wise decision is to, one, find the mentor who will be invested in you, and you know that they're invested because they are willing to share their time and their energy and their talents with you. So that's one of the very important things, is that people are willing to share their time with you. Number two, that person is in a leadership position or is excelling in what you want to do. So, you know, you want to choose someone who is doing very well in that area that you are seeking mentorship about. You don't want to get mentorship from someone that you think is just mediocre or just okay or just getting by or not good at what they do. You want to find one of the best people who is doing what you aspire to do. And, you know, I would say also, it's even better if you see products of their good mentorship, meaning maybe there are people who they have mentored in the past who are doing well and who can attest to how they are a good mentor, or you see what they have achieved because of that mentor. That is another good way or a good criterion for choosing wisely.
Thank you so much.
Ok, allez. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Vous avez la question. Ok.
Okay, thank you, Dr. West. Now, it was a good moment, according to me, it was a good one because I've learned many things, and about Darrell said in our mentorship, we can hear from one which is practice many malpractice. But I want to know what can us do and how can us do to shun or to keep down all of those malpractice, because we must be in good, I can say, good sharing with our mentor. And the second question is about how can I prepare for my mentorship meeting? Thank you.
Would one of you gentlemen please repeat? There was an echo and I just could not hear the question clearly. Can you repeat that? It was just an echo in the room, and I could not hear the question very clearly. Can you say that one more time for me, please?
Okay. First of all, you can tell us how can I prepare for my mentor meeting? How can I prepare for my mentor meeting? And
Okay, I got that.
You said about many malpractice, but I want to know what you can share those all of those malpractice.
Okay. The second question, I didn't catch the second question. I'll start with the first one, and Anya or Natasha, if you caught the second question, if you can type it in the chat, I'll read it from there and then answer that. But the first question is, yes, thank you for that question again. The mentorship meeting those meetings are so important because your mentor may not otherwise have time to talk with you. So you want to take full advantage of that time, that valuable time that you get. And so with the mentorship meeting, not only would you have prepared for it ahead of time with sending your mentor an agenda for what you hope to accomplish. So for example, one example agenda may be, it may first be an introduction. So this may be your first meeting. And so one agenda item may be introduction, meaning you are telling your mentor about yourself. Maybe it's where you're from, what level of schooling you were at, and what you hope to do in the future, like what your main objective would be. And, in that first meeting, you may want to say how you came to identify that mentor, meaning what was it about them that drew you to want to meet with them? And then thirdly, what you hope to accomplish with that mentor. What do you want them to help you to do? And lastly, how often would you like to meet with that mentor? So being able to describe, if it's okay with you, I'd like to meet once a month or once a quarter. So trying to express to them, because they're going to want to know how they can help you and how often they will need to follow up with you. So trying to clarify those things on the first meeting, I think would be a big accomplishment. And Anya or Natasha, did you get the second question? I'm sorry.
No, thank you, Doctor, for that question, the answer. We didn't catch the question, but if someone could perhaps just type it into the question box, because the echo is quite bad, and then we can move on to our next panelist, so everyone has another chance to ask their questions, if that's okay. Thank you. Opela Opulua, if you could ask your question, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. While you're answering all those other questions, you actually answered most of my questions. However, two other ones I'll just ask together. First of all, over here, training in medicine, we're always told that respect is key. And I know generally as human beings, we have to respect ourselves, but there's this special respect we're supposed to give to those ahead of us. Now, my question is, how do I excuse myself from a mentorship that is not working for me for one reason or the other? How do I excuse myself? And then the next question is, for me, so far, I've benefited from, informal mentorship relationships from senior colleagues, students also, before I go to my final year, which I'm in right now. Now, how do I'm not sure how to put this. How do the point is that I'm used to informal forms of mentorship. Now you're talking about meetings, emails, while I'm used to walking into their rooms and asking them questions directly. How do I transition conveniently to a formal kind of mentorship relationship now with doctors? Once I graduate, I'm going to be working with doctors. Am I going to transition conveniently? So the first one is, how do I excuse myself from a mentorship that's not working for me? And secondly, how do I balance what I'm used to, informal form of mentorship, with a real mentorship relationship?
Wow, those are great and also challenging questions. I think about the first one where you said, how do you excuse yourself? I think probably the most professional and honorable, respectful way would be to, you know, thank them and point out ways in which they have helped you. And perhaps it is, you know, a letter or a phone call, in which you're just pointing out kind of the journey that you've taken with that mentor and steps along that journey that they have contributed to, that have contributed to your success. Maybe it's an award, maybe it's a product, maybe it's a project, or maybe it was just advice that you felt that was very valuable to you. And so you kind of highlight the good things, and then you suggest that, you know, you would like to stay in touch with that person, but you are pursuing other interests of yours for which you're seeking, you know, further mentorship guidance. And so, you know, you're in other words, you're letting that person know that they have been valuable to you. You may call on them in the future, but that you're also pursuing other interests that you're hoping to get other mentorship around. So they will get the point that, hey, you know, this person has gained some stuff from me, but now it's time for them to kind of leave the nest, if you will. So I think that's an excellent question, and I think that's probably one of the nicest ways that you could do that. In regards to the second question, which I like how you said you're used to kind of walking into people's offices and being very informal, which is great. That really speaks to your relationship with your mentor. And I certainly have that relationship with some of my mentors where I can text them on the text chat, or I can call them, or I can go to their house, you know, things like that. And there is a place for that. And that is totally fine. That doesn't mean that it's not good to have that. But as you start to build newer mentorship relationships, you may find that that may not work with them. And so certainly those mentors that you have built that relationship with, that's very informal, those may be the mentors who can speak most to your character and your personality, and can really be great advocates for you because they know you so well. They know you on a professional level, but they also know you on a personal level. So that's a good thing. But as you build other relationships, maybe they are outside of your institution, or maybe they are people you have not known informally. It's important to take these tips with you so that you can sort of foster that professional relationship. So you don't worry about trying to switch those informal relationships to more professional ones. Just, you know, you can keep those as they are. If that works for the mentor, keep it that way. But there may be other mentors who expect a different, more formal relationship. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Opelua, for that question, and Dr. Gray for answering how you can navigate between informal mentorships and formal mentorships, and how you can like let go of a previous mentorship mentor and then just start a new one. I really love how you said that, you thank them for how they've helped you grow, and also tell them that you're pursuing other opportunities, like living the nest, the analogy.
Right.
That was really amazing. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to ask the next panelist to share her question with us, and that must be Tekwanji.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Dr. Gray. So we've spoken about a lot, and it's been very informative. My question is in relation to my personal experiences as a medical student at the University of Zambia, but also in relation to things that we have already spoken about in this meeting. So Muiza posed a brilliant question. She talked about your expectation versus the mentor's expectation, of kind of having that collide. And you also spoke on mentor malpractice and the different things that we should look out for and be aware of. You posed a statement that I think has been one of the things I've been trying to work on, under promising and over delivering. But at a certain point, you encounter burnout. So how do you communicate that to your mentor to say, I think I need a timeout? And is there a way to, like she said, sometimes you need to excuse yourself from a mentorship for a while. How do you get back when you need that again? Thank you.
Man, that is Another great, all of these are very thoughtful questions, and tough questions too. I think, one of the things too, and it can be very difficult to understand, is these are early or new experiences for you. Maybe it's tackling research projects, for example. Sometimes it can be difficult to know exactly what your limit is. But as you start to understand what your limit, your bandwidth, your time, your limits on those things are, you can better understand when you need to kind of say no or not take on new responsibilities. Because I think on the front end, it's very important for you to understand those limits so that you aren't tempted to take on more than you can handle, or that you are more able to nicely say no when the mentor offers another project for you. You can say, I'm really working on, making sure that I complete this task or complete this project before I start another one. But when you're in the middle of it, I think, it's important to just be candid and honest. Integrity or honesty is extremely important in the mentor-mentee relationship, and that's part of what respect is, being very honest with that mentor. And so I think it is okay to communicate with that mentor and say, something like, and you can put it in words that make the most sense for you, but something like, I have reached a point where I think I have exceeded my ability to perform at my peak level, or at an excellent level. And what I would like to do, as opposed to just dropping these projects, I would like to extend the time so that I can give you the best product that I can give. And I recognize that I am not meeting my timeline that I promised. And I apologize for that, but I know what your expectation for excellence is, and I want to meet that expectation. And so I will need a little bit more time. Or if you're just trying to excuse yourself from that, and then kind of return back, or maybe you have excused yourself and you're trying to kind of return back to that relationship or that project, that you will have a better sense of what that mentor might respond to. But one example might be something like, Mr. or Mrs. or Dr. so-and-so, I have reassessed my priorities. And I recognize that working with you is one of those priorities. I apologize for having to step away, but I would like to rejoin in this relationship because it has been very beneficial to me. So trying to respectfully ask to kind of rejoin with that mentor, understanding that you have had to kind of reassess your priorities. Tough questions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
These are really interesting questions, and definitely a bit challenging, I think, to even come across that way. Thank you, Tupanji, for that question. Muiza, if you'd like to ask your question.
Thank you so much, Anya. Hi, Dr. Gray, again.
Hi.
My other question is, what do you do after failure? And how do you forgive yourself? I have noticed most times we are a little too hard on ourselves when we fail, or maybe fail to do something to a level that we expected to do. We have a really hard time moving from that. And yeah, I don't know if you could give a personal experience or based off things that you know on how one can move on after failure and also forgive themselves.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And that's very real. And the way I think about it is, if you have never failed, your dream is not big enough, meaning you're doing the easy thing. You have not challenged yourself enough that you have experienced a setback. And so failure is a normal part of life. And I think about setbacks as setups for comebacks. I think about failures as opportunities to really challenge yourself and see how resilient you are and to see how focused you are. You know, failure, I have had so many failures, but I think it has been out of those failures, out of those hardships that I have experienced my greatest successes. I mean, I think about whether it was I was in school and I failed a test, or when I was transitioning from undergraduate to medical school and I had to take the medical college admission test and I didn't get as high a score as I wanted. Or I think about, you know, maybe I had spent so much time writing a grant in regards to a research project and I didn't get the grant. I didn't get the money to be able to do that work. So we all experience failures, and it's a routine. It's a part of what we do, and I think that what we have to do is to expect adversity, right? We have to expect challenges and failure to come our way. It's going to happen. That the key part is that you are not in this alone, right? We have to, as we think about experiencing adversity, it's important that we have friendships, that we have partnerships, and that we also have mentorship and sponsorships to help us to navigate that. I think about, I don't know if I'm a fan of redwood trees. Redwood trees, the last time that I saw them, it was on the west coast of the United States in California. And redwood trees are hundreds of feet high, tall. And you would think because they are so tall that they have to have roots that are very, very deep in the ground, but they don't. They actually have very shallow roots, and these roots extend outward to connect with other redwood trees. And so it's in their connection that they grow strong. It's not because they've had, you know, very deep roots. So I use it as an analogy. So you may have people with whom you interact who have not been friends or family for years, so you may not have very deep roots with them. But they are people who can help you through the storms, who can help you stay strong when you experience challenges and failures. And like the redwood trees, they are connected, and that's what makes them very strong. And so you have to have connections, and you have to be rooted with people that help you to traverse the very difficult times and the failures that you will experience. We all experience failure. There is, you know, it's hard to think of anybody who is very successful who has not experienced failure. And so I think, you know, understanding that it's going to come, forgiving yourself when it does, it's certainly a disappointment. And there may even be a time when you grieve about it, and that's natural too. But you cannot let that grief or that sadness or disappointment stop you from going right back at it again. And so, you know, I mentioned the medical college admission test that initially I didn't score well on. Well, I attacked it again, got a better score the next time, right? And then got a scholarship to go to medical school. You know, I think about the grant that I didn't get, rewrote the grant, and then subsequently got it. You know, so I think you just have to have that persistence, that resilience, that determination, and expectation that failure will come. But be connected to a group, be connected to mentors and friends and peers who can help you withstand those stormy times or those hard and failure times.
Thank you so much for the question, Muisa. I mean, was it Muisa? Yeah, it was Muisa and Dr. Gray. I really loved the analogy you gave of the red trees. I think they call it the red trees, of how you need to be connected with other people, how your roots need to intertwine with other people, because I feel like it's also really important to have a community of people to talk to when you experience failure. So I really loved that. And the other three words that you used, resilience, perseverance, and determination, I feel like those are really important, especially for students that are going into the medical field, that are following their passion. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to now call upon the next person. Actually, Anya, you call the next person to speak.
Thank you, Natasha. I think it's Gloria. Gloria, have you got any last questions for us?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So thank you, Dr. Gray. During the presentation, you mentioned about mentor-mentee relationship and the pitfalls. An example you gave was of, I'm not sure if this is the correct word, mental hijack of
Yeah.
you sharing a project
Mhm.
with your mentor and they steal it from you. So when you're establishing a mentor-mentee relationship, my first question would be, how can you protect yourself from something like that? Especially most instances, you don't see it coming.
Yeah.
Yes, that's number one. Number two, it's still on the relationship. Um, okay, I'd say from my experience, most mentorships I've had are more informal than formal. So even so when you establish the relationship, because we've seen already, there are times when you find out what time works for your mentor, when can you email, text, but now how do you, I don't know if you're getting what I'm trying to ask, boundaries that take care of you as a mentee. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so in regards to the first question, yes, there are mentee hijackers, right? Who will, who can use your ideas for self-gain. I would say, one of the parts of choosing wisely is really trying to take time to first know the mentor and know that you can trust them. And perhaps that comes with knowing people that person has already mentored. So perhaps they've had mentees that you can talk to and say, hey, how is this person as a mentor for you? Could you trust them? Could you bring them your ideas and trust that they wouldn't take them and then not give you credit? I think that's part of it. And sometimes it's, it's not, some people will really help to build upon your ideas. I think if you bring, novel ideas to them, they will give you credit. The difficult thing is knowing at the outset those people who will do that versus those who will just take your idea and not give you any credit for it. And I think that has to come with trust. You have to feel like you can establish a trusting relationship with them. So perhaps maybe your first meeting isn't the idea. Maybe it's just you're getting to know that mentor, you're telling them about yourself and you see how they respond to that, or you're talking to people who know them, because it can be very hard if you've never talked with that person to know if they are a hijacker. And so I think that it comes with just getting to know them as a person. Yeah. And then the second question, I forgot the second question. I'm sorry. What was this? Tell me the second question again.
It's okay. When in the relationship of a mentor and a mentee, boundaries. How do you establish boundaries?
Oh, okay.
Probably I'd give one example out of nowhere to prevent probably harassment.
Oh,
If it's, you're a female, your mentors.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
something
no,
like that.
I get it. That's a very good point. I think unfortunately, depending on your knowledge of that mentor, certainly I think you can help set expectations from the outset, but it can sometimes be difficult when you want to set those boundaries in a respectful way without making assumptions or projecting things on them. Like, you don't want to say at the outset, well, don't do this, because you never know whether they were going to do that anyway. Don't harass me, right? Because they might not have harassed you anyway. So I think in some ways it may be if you start to sense that you are experiencing something with that mentor that should not be. Maybe it's that they are calling you late at night, or maybe it's that they are emailing you something very late at night with a expectation of a response that night. I think it's very important to use as an example to say respectfully to that person is, is there another way that we can communicate that would be mutually beneficial. And I think also having, and this is where also I think having a mentorship team is helpful, or a connector is helpful. I mentioned a connector because perhaps you may need an intervention. It may be very difficult for you to approach that mentor about a specific situation alone. And so you might need someone else to help intervene for you or with you when those situations arise. So I think having someone else in your corner who can help advocate for you or to intervene when such situations come up will be beneficial. I see our brothers at the Congo it looks like they have another question too.
Yes, actually, they were the ones that are coming up next. So I just wanted to thank Gloria for the question on project hijacking and the boundaries question. And thank you so much, Dr. Gray, for answering the question. So now we're going to take it to the University of Lubumbashi to ask their questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, hi. Hello.
Hi.
Well, we want to thank you, Dr. Gray. My name is Paul Dizel. We're so happy because of what's going on here. But we have a question. Our question is, does mentorship require the physical presence? And our number two, in other words, is it possible that the mentor might be in the US? If so, how to adapt the knowledge and experience acquired in a country where medicine is highly developed to a learner in a country where medicine is in development. So can a mentor be in the US and a mentee is in Congo? Can it be possible? And is it possible to have a bunch of mentors at the same time in different fields?
Yes, and thank you to all of you for that very, very insightful and good question. So number one, no, you do not, it is okay to have mentors who are not in physical presence with you. And certainly what we're seeing now is that particularly with platforms like Zoom and Facebook that we have now, it is easier to communicate with people without having to be in front of them. So you can have a mentor who is in another country, such as the US, for example, to mentor you. But one of the things that would be helpful is if, for example, let's say you have a mentor in the US, that person, that mentor would need to be knowledgeable about what you are experiencing where you are. So it's very difficult, for example, for a doctor or a researcher in the US to understand what restrictions or limitations you might have in your country unless you share that with them. And because that will help them to be a better mentor. So yes, it is very possible to have a mentor outside of the US. I think about myself, even to go to your second question, to have mentors who are in other specialties. Yes, I do. I have mentors who live in other states. I have mentors who are in different specialties. And I leverage those mentors for different reasons. Perhaps a mentor in another specialty is the person that has the big vision, who helps me to see my career over the long haul and not necessarily just focused on my specialty. Or perhaps that mentor is a mentor even outside of just talking medicine and science. Maybe it's a mentor I look to see how I can balance family life and work life. And I seek their advice and mentorship around that. So yes, I use mentors outside of my specialty and even outside of where I live, outside of my state, who are very helpful for me. So I do think that there is opportunity for you to have mentors outside of your specialty and outside of your country. I do think that that's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gray, and for the team at Congo. There's also very, very important questions, I think. So we do have some questions in the Q&A box, and I'll just read one of them. And Dr. Gray, if you're able to answer as well. This is from the perspective of someone who is a mentor. They say, how do you respond when requested to be a mentor when you are too busy to provide the mentorship, but recognize that the potential mentee may not have anyone else available to help them? And furthermore, how do you respond when you feel the mentee may not be ready to meet their goals?
Oh, wow. thank you for that very thoughtful question, a very good one. I think, number one, it starts with honesty. And I am very honest with potential mentees about my limitations and what my expectations are. And I completely empathize with what you're saying too. And what they're saying is, this person, this mentee might not have anyone else who they can count on to help guide them. And I completely understand that. And I think, even though you're busy and you feel like you may not be able to commit regular time to meet with them, perhaps you can find a different way to mentor them. And perhaps it's very much you establish a expectation that maybe we will meet, I don't know, once a quarter, once every 3 months, or once, or twice a year, just to get caught up on what that person is doing, questions they might have, so that it's not something that where you set expectation, I'm going to meet you every week, or we're going to do a research project together, but maybe you are just the person that helps to provide some guidance, or maybe you are the connector. Maybe you are so busy, but you say, you know what, I know someone who is in the next town over. I know someone who is in South Africa, or I know someone who is in another country that I can connect you with, who might have more time than I have to give right now. And they folks will understand that, and they probably respect you and came to you because they understand that you are good at what you do, that you're excellent. But they also understand because you're excellent, you're also probably very busy. So just being very honest about that. And then two, in regards to that last part about concern that the mentee might not be ready to meet their goals, it's okay to say that too. And I know sometimes that I think trying to find a nicer way to say it will probably be better, but it's okay to say, to the mentor, there are some things or some skills that I think would be good for you to acquire before you seek further mentorship from this person or that person. I'd like for you to get stronger in writing, perhaps. Maybe that's one area. Or I'd like for you to get stronger in this other area first before you seek this other person I'm going to connect you with. I'd like for you to get strong. And that's okay to say too, or if they come to you with, a list of goals and objectives saying, this is what I hope to do. And it's okay to be very transparent and to say, look, I think that you are a very talented mentee, but I see these gaps and I see these areas for improvement that you will need to improve on before you can really advance to be able to meet the goals that you have set for yourself. And so you can make recommendations based on that, based on those gaps or areas of improvement that student or that person, that mentee needs to make. And it's okay to say that. And I think they will be stronger for it. What I really don't like seeing is when there are people who have obvious gaps or areas of improvement and nobody ever tells them. And so they never know until it's too late. And so it's very important that you do exactly that you approach it with honesty and tell them, because you might be that person that, helps to turn the light on in their brain. They need to make some changes if they hope to meet their goals. So thank you for that question.
Thank you for your answer, Dr. Gray. Diklar, I hope that answers your question. We have 2 more questions. What can you do if you really want a mentor, but there really isn't anyone around, even in medical school, who meets these criteria? This is from Oluwapulomi.
Oh, yeah. What's interesting about that is, usually there is always somebody to, being a mentor is in part being a leader. And you can be a leader no matter where you are. You can be a mentor. Perhaps, maybe it's, you want to mentor someone. Maybe they're not in your same school. Maybe they are someone. So for example, medical students, all of you on this panel, maybe you are mentoring someone who is in, high school, or someone who aspires to be in that undergraduate medical school program, right? So you're mentoring someone who is below you. Or maybe it's mentoring in your home. So you gain experience by mentoring. Maybe it's a sister or a brother and helping to coach them along their life to get to their next steps. Or maybe it's through opportunities like this. I mean, I think about this panel. This is such a great panel that you all have organized. And perhaps one idea you might have is organizing this for younger students. So students who are in high school and who are wanting to get to where you are. So maybe perhaps you identify some people that you can mentor through an opportunity like that, meeting young students who want to be or want to do what you want to do. So thinking about novel ways to meet people, I think can be very helpful for that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Doctor. And then one last question. What are some of the practical ways one can improve the chances of being mentored by the best physicians? So I assume this is for medical students or for the younger junior interns, etc. Practical ways.
Yeah, I think getting the best mentorship, I think, will come by the more networking you're able to do, the better. That means, locally, certainly where you are working, identifying those people who are excelling in their field, but also who have worked with people, other mentees that you can talk to see if they have actually been good. But also, I think, opportunities like this, where maybe it's organized locally, where you get to talk to leaders in the field, maybe it's in Zambia, or maybe it's in the Congo, or maybe it's in Kenya, where you have, local or even cross-country forums, just like what we have today, where people can come and speak about what they do. That would be an opportunity to identify people who are leading in their field. But again, I think it really comes down to the relationships and the connections. Who have those people mentored before? How might their interests align with yours? And I think those are probably the best. I've identified my mentors, I think, through networking. If I've gone to a meeting and I identified somebody who's doing what I aspire to do, I try to connect with them. Or maybe I find someone who knows that person and then connect with them. Or I see another student, or I see someone else who has done very well with the person. And then I just talk to that student and say, how did you go about meeting this mentor? How did you go about working with this mentor? Do you like this mentor? How is that mentor good for you? And then try to see if we can build a relationship that way. But I think communication is key, whether it be communicating via email or talking with friends about mentors. That's how you really identify the people that will be good for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Gray. Dr. Gray, just maybe this question should have been asked right at the beginning. I think many of us as students do highlight, and we see a lot of our physicians and our consultants, and many of us are in awe of, for example, of you, just seeing what you've done, seeing what you've accomplished and your pathway to get there. And I think because many of the students are very intimidated by our senior consultants, what would be the best way to approach a senior consultant or someone that we would want mentorship from?
Oh, that's another great question. All of these have been fantastic. I think it comes with understanding the personality of that consultant. So, for example, some may respond better to a in-person. So if you're working along with a consultant or a physician or researcher, some may respond better towards an in-person request, whereas others may also respond via email. But I think whichever way you do it, just do it respectfully. And I think that, for example, if someone prefers it face-to-face, perhaps you have seen this person in the hospital or you are working directly with them. In some way, try to find a time when you can either meet in their office or pull them to the side and say, Doctor, and I'm just going to make up a name, Dr. Johnson, I have really admired how you work with patients and what you have been able to accomplish. Is there a time when we can meet or a way in which we can meet so that I can understand if there's a way for us to work together, because I would like to seek some mentorship advice from you. Or if that person, maybe you don't see that person frequently, but you're able to obtain their contact information. You can send them an email, in which you let them know who you are. Hi, I am Anya. you may not remember, but I worked with you a couple of months ago when we were working together on the inpatient ward, or I saw you or I met you at a conference, and I wanted to follow up with you because there's been some specific mentorship advice I'm hoping to gain from you. Is there a time or place or opportunity to meet?
Perfect. That actually helps so much, because I think with so many conferences and especially all these webinars, it becomes very intimidating and you connect with so many people, but then
Yes.
how do I approach someone is always becomes very intimidating. Dr. Gray, thank you so much for your time. The 5 questions for how to find them, or the type of mentorship and sponsorships have been really enlightening. Your quotes, even just the general mutual respect, trust, understanding, and empathy have been such pinnacle points in this entire presentation. So from my side, I would just like to say thank you for your time, and to all our panelists, thank you so much for all the questions. They were really insightful. I'm handing over to Natasha to close.
Thank you so much. But before we close, I have one question as well. I feel like everybody had the opportunity. But like when you are in a mentorship program, how do you appreciate your mentor? Like I sometimes feel like my mentor is pouring so much into me. I'm gaining so much from this relationship. But how do I also make them feel that they're also growing in this relationship with me?
Yeah. I think the best ways, I think there's 2 best ways. One is to be excellent. Your excellence really reflects them too. So if you are able to demonstrate that you are accomplishing and meeting your goals, they will feel extremely good about that, because they will feel like they can take credit for that, or they can take some piece of credit for that. The other piece is just showing, just being thankful. I'll tell you, I have actually, so I have some of them, but you'll see here, there's some cards here, and there's others behind these pictures, and I keep those because they're very valuable when students say thank you. So, take the time to write a card or a letter, or, if you can't get a letter, or you feel like you can't afford a card, write an email of thanks to them. And I think that goes a very long way. You may feel it's insufficient, but as a mentor, that means a lot. Your words mean a lot. Mm-hmm.
Wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate your input and your feedback. I feel so happy that now I can actually feel good that my mentor is helping me grow, but I'm also contributing to that growth as well. So thank you so much. As we wrap up the meeting, as we come to an end, we would just, on behalf of the POHER scholars and all the panelists, we just want to say thank you so much for making time to talk to us. And especially, I know you're in a different time zone and you had to wake up early. So we're really grateful that you are here to share your knowledge with us and to help us grow in our medical careers. And we would also like to say thank you so much to Dr. Akwi for introducing you to us, because she has been such an amazing mentor overall, with connecting us to amazing leaders like you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you guys. Yeah, thank you guys so much. I can't, this is such an important topic. I completely agree. And that's why we wanted to have this today. I mean, I would, go ahead and take this chance to name drop my mentor, Dr. Margaret Mary Wilson. Please Google her up. She is the absolute, one of the best people. I think I've known her, I want to say over maybe 20 years, maybe. But with her, she's sort of been the both personal and professional mentor. So what he said for me, I think comfort. You have to be comfortable with who you're identifying as a mentor. If I'm having challenges at work, if I have a question, I know that this is a person that I could just text and say, this is what's going on, or I can pick up the phone and say, this is what's going on. And I know she'll give me honest advice, because that's also what you want. Someone you're comfortable with would provide you the honest guidance that would help you grow. What I always say, the constructive criticism, they won't beat around the bush to get to the point. And then just to, carry on what Dr. Gray mentioned, as mentors, I tell my mentees, what energizes me is you. if I see that you're giving that energy, that enthusiasm that you want to grow, that then fuels me to want to help even more. And what I mean by that is sometimes you don't want to see him as a burden, as a mentor. In other words, you don't want to see him as though you're harassing the mentee. You're telling them this, that, and the other, but that it's a partnership. If you're like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, and then you're bringing that to the table, then I'm like, all right, we need to get her here, or we need to get him here. So, you as a mentee are also extremely powerful in this relationship. It's not like, you, the mentee, come to the mentor and you bow down. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And it's a partnership. So I absolutely love this session. This means a whole lot to me because I know I got to this point, not by myself. And like you said, peer mentors, that's a big deal as well. Sponsors, those are all important points. So what I'm hoping, first of all, again, thank you so much, Dr. Darrell Gray. I know this was supposed to be an hour.
No, it's perfect.
And it's like a couple hours later and we could keep going on and on, but we have to be respectful of your time. So, and all the background that's been going on in terms of, he's been very accommodating with all the changes that have been happening. And we're so happy that, we made this work. And then to our students in Congo, thank you guys so much. Opiola, Nigeria, thank you. Tapwanji in Zambia, Gloria in Kenya, Wiz in Zambia, Anya in Zambia, Natasha in Chicago, Team Mufulira. We here as POHER are absolutely excited to be able to bring this to you. We're hoping to have more sessions for mentorship and other programs. And anyone out there who's watching, if there's something that's of interest to you, feel free to reach out. I'm not going to put Dr. Gray on the spot, but I'm going to say you can find him on Twitter. If you want to
reach out, honestly, this is a pleasure for me. I love this. This was a great way to start my morning. So thank you. This is perfect.
Yeah. You can find, any GI news, GI update. He's doing a lot of work that not only applies to GI, but just, to medicine in general. So look him up on Twitter, look him up on LinkedIn. I'm just beyond excited. And this was an absolutely amazing time. So to everyone who had the chance to join, thank you. And for now, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Everyone have a fantastic day. And we'll meet again. We have more exciting sessions that are coming up. So, look out. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much, Darrell. I am absolutely grateful.
Dr. Agri, I have to ask a question. Did you get a screenshot that you can send? Did you get any screenshot? I would love for you to get a screenshot now. Can you then send it to me? Because I want to put all your beautiful faces on Facebook and Instagram and things like that too. So. Oh,
that's a great idea. All right, everybody, other people, please do it because I think I do control print screen, right? I think I did it.
Okay, hold on. You got to give folks a warning to look at the screen and smile and stuff.
Okay, sorry. All right, you guys, we're gonna try this. Let me see. I think I don't know what I'm doing here. Other people who are watching are probably like, "What is happening right now?" All right, let me try.
Take a photo if it's better.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, all right. Is it control print?
Yeah, it should be control print screen or something like that.
Okay. Yes, I did it. Oh, was everyone smiling? Oh, no, hold on. Let's do.
You guys say like 1, 2, 3 or something.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even say, all right, you guys. On 3, everyone smile, say cheese, whatever it is. Let me look up myself. 1, 2, 3. I think I got it.
Thank you all, everyone. Thank you.
All right, you guys all have a great day. We'll keep in touch. Have a wonderful day and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Take care.
Bye.